Once they get the text messaging platform set up, in 2 hours, you can be handling leads. One of my coaching clients, once we got him all set up, he started texting and he got 3 deals within 2 weeks.
When we first started doing this business, probably like 40 to 50% of properties were landlocked, no road access. New land investors have it easy as far as that.
It's easy to flip. I always encourage people to get 2 or 3 of those under your belt, and then you can start focusing. It was going to be a flip. It works as a flip. Guess what? Works better as a subdivide.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. I am joined today by Darrick, one of our very, very successful coaches in our community. He's helping so many students. But today, Darrick's one of his main marketing strategies is texting. He's an expert in texting. He knows how to cold text, follow-up text, everything like that. So today we're talking about texting to get land deals, essentially, Darrick. I think you're an expert on that. You can bring so much knowledge. Obviously, you do direct mail, all these other aspects. But let's get rolling with texting. I know you love it. I know you like how fast it can be. But when you think about texting to get land deals, and so much has changed even since you've started. What's the biggest thing kind of holding people back from getting in texting from what you've seen?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. It's so quick. It's so effective. I guess the only downfall is the amount of time it takes to answer and go through and look at land. But you're doing that with mail also, so I'm not entirely sure. It's just it's quick. I don't think people are ready for how quick it actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then when those messages start coming in, I think people sometimes have a tendency to get overwhelmed, especially if they're a new land investor. They're not used to maybe qualifying land really quick, or handling all that level of text message volume that comes in right away. So I think that's probably the biggest. And everybody knows that their first big hurdle is sending out marketing, whether it's text messages or cold calling or sending out your first mailer. It's always a little bit scary. Did I get it all set up right and all that stuff? So there's a couple things, I suppose, but texting is so great.
Yeah. When I'm doing anything in business, I love instant feedback, and waiting is not my expertise. Never has been. If I'm A/B testing ads or A/B testing a thumbnail for YouTube, I want an answer immediately. And it's just not the reality of things. And that's the same thing with direct mail. Direct mail is a waiting game. You have to wait for the direct mail to reach the sellers. And even then, I love direct mail. I'm not going to, but that is a negative of direct mail versus texting. Do you have a race for your students for who's going to get, because they could literally join our coaching program, talk to Darrick, or start our coaching program, have an onboarding call with Darrick, and having leads 72 hours later. What's the craziest thing you've seen with texting as far as they got started and now they're already getting leads?
Yeah. So I have a couple clients that only do text message. And I think the biggest advantage is what you say, it's closing that feedback loop, right? You put in the effort to get everything set up, and with mail, you got to wait 2 weeks, right? For that land, for it to go through all the processing and mail sending. It doesn't close that feedback loop quickly. With text, it's right there, right? And when I get a coaching client that's I only have the budget for texting because it's a much less dollar amount up front. So the fact that they can get started, they can go, once they get the text messaging platform set up, in 2 hours, you can be handling leads, right? I've got Greg is one of my coaching clients, and he's text only. And he, once we got him all set up, he started texting and he got 3 deals. He's looking at them. I think we're close. I think we're buying 2 of them. And that happened within 2 weeks of him being in our program. And I'm like, that's incredible. You don't get that with mail, just because it takes 2 weeks for the mail to get there.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons of all of it, and definitely huge pros. I think with texting, when you're first getting started out, there's less costly mistakes. Because you're paying a monthly thing. Yeah, you pay for your data, but you can always reuse that data if you mess something up on there. But yeah, I think just the mistakes with text. I've seen some really bad mistakes when people are mailing the first time. I've seen them put the same address on every single letter. I've seen them, and usually the mail company, I've seen them just adjust the address one number, or the reference numbers are all the same. So it's just a headache when you're actually bringing leads in. Texting is, 1, so immediate, and 2, I think mistakes are less costly. I know you push a lot of people to texting, and you're a huge advocate for texting. Is that kind of the first marketing strategy, or is it, how do you base, if you have someone coming to you, how do you decide, okay, you should be doing mail versus you should be doing mail and texting versus you should only be texting? Like if I was someone coming to you, what would you do?
I mean, first off, just looking at budget, I think that's the first thing. How much money do they have to set aside for marketing? If they're coming in with 10 grand or more for marketing, we can do mail and we can do text. I love the 1-2 punch is huge. But if you're coming in and you only got 2 grand, 3 grand, I'm all text, right? That's after you get everything all set up, 2 or 3 grand is maybe one, maybe two mailers. And if you don't get a deal there, you're out of money. But with text message, that's 6 months of text messaging, right? 10,000 text messages. That's huge. That's, so much more marketing than sending out 3,000 mailers. So I usually I take budget first, right? And then I also take a look at the person. Like if they're like me, where they're like, hey, I want to attack this, I want to get after it, we might go text message first and then focus on mail. Um, Depending, I have a new client that just came in and that was his strategy. He's like, I work best under stress. I'm like, text
There you go.
message. And I get that, right? Like when your back's up against the wall and you're stressed out, you work better. I'm right there with you. I get that a lot. So that spoke to me and I was like, we're going to start you with text and then we'll go into mail after that, while you're texting.
Hmm.
And then somebody who just wants to do mail, I think that's a rare thing these days. I don't get why somebody would only do mail, unless that's just what they want to get good at and want to hyper focus on mail. I'm for it. I'm here for it because I that's how I started and I totally get that. I mean, I sent out 30,000, mailers in 5 months last year, um, during my little like I'm just killing it, right? Um, and that was great. I loved it. I loved figuring out the mail program. But once I found text messaging, I was like, come on, this
Hmm.
is killing.
And your money goes so far, like you said, and there's not many businesses that you can build a successful money making business with $2,000 to $3,000, and that's literally your marketing spend, and that can get you. I mean, I'm sure you've seen crazy things where that can get you $50,000, $100,000 of profit on deals. It's just the reality of it. Like you just need one deal. It doesn't matter. Like that could bring you $500,000. There's no limit. Everyone's got phone numbers. Everyone texts. As far as sellers with the land, they have money. So if you get talk to that one seller who has $500,000 property and they're willing to sell it for 300,000 or double close or whatever it is, like there's a way you can turn that $2,000 initial marketing budget into $200,000. I don't know if you've seen any stories as crazy as that, but it definitely happens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jay and Haley kill it with text message. They came from kind of a wholesaling background, so they already had their text message stuff set up. And I'm probably looking at 2 or 3 deals a week for them, just on text alone. I keep trying to talk them into doing some mail. I'm like, they're having a baby next month. I'm like, okay, we can slow this down by doing some mail in here, which I think is a good strategy when life kind of, needs to slow down a little bit. But they kill it. I mean, I don't know, they're probably gonna have 4 or 5 deals by the end of our coaching program, which is,
Three
I mean, that
months?
could, yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
incredible.
it's wild.
What are you're such an advocate for it, so but I need you to tell us some. Like, what are some negatives with texting?
Okay, so I mean, it's a neutral offer, right? So there's more upfront work. You're going to get a lot of people, give me an offer, give me an offer, give me an offer, give me an offer. You get a lot of that with text message. So with mail, you get fewer leads, but they're warm. They have this marketing in front of them that goes, I can turn your land into this much cash. That's powerful. With text message, it's kind of like you're going to get everybody who has their land listed, anybody who just wants to see what somebody would offer. So it's a lot more to like, sort through once those text messages start coming in. Plus, you got to get really good at analyzing land quickly, right? You got to be able to qualify that land quick, because you want to get back to them as quickly as possible with text message. So somebody who doesn't have a lot of time, I'll push to mail. But if you got a lot of time and you can dedicate it to text message, it's a good way to go, obviously, but it is a lot. And I always tell people, you're going to get overwhelmed with text messages. You send out 3,000 text messages in a week. That's a lot of stuff to sort through.
That's a good point. And yeah, time is a huge thing. Like when you're deciding on a marketing plan, a marketing strategy, like I think there's only two things that matter. It's your budget and it's the amount of time you can put in this business. If you're trying to text 10,000 people a month, whatever that turns out to be 300 a day, and you only have 20, 30 minutes a day to put into this business, like you might probably got to make some adjustments or find some other time where you can respond to people. How much time, if you want to send 10,000 texts out per month, like how much time do you need on a daily basis? What does that look like?
So when I send out my text messages, I try to block, 2 to 3 hours in a space, and you get the majority of your responses in those two
Mm.
to three hours. So if you can, once I start sending my text messages, I start getting responses right away, right? What I try to do is before I start responding, I get all my text messages out the door, whatever I'm going to send that day. It's usually 600 because I blocked the 3 hours, and then I dive into responding. And I respond for 2 or 3 hours. I'm looking at land. I'm like focusing on this text message thing, right? And then after that, I usually step away. I'm still going to get some text message flowing in, but the majority of the people who are going to respond have responded quite soon. And I'll come back and visit it at another 1 hour block later that day, right? And just go back in, focus, land, qualify, call, all that stuff.
So that just, yeah, that's a good point because I'm sure you'll get leads later in the day after 6 hours after you sent the text. But 90% of those people are responding and telling you to F off or telling you if they're interested from the start. Before we get into the legalities on all this stuff, Darrick and myself are not lawyers, guys.
Yeah.
I feel like we know the legalities pretty well. But I think if we talked, or the first thing we said was like, why do people not do texting if they're in land investing? I think a big one is their fear of lawsuits, their fear of the legalities. Can you touch base on like what do you know about that aspect of it? I know Launch Control, the software you use, is very, very compliant in terms of that. Can you talk about it a little bit of what you know in terms of that?
Yeah, I mean, I have some clients that are using other programs, right? And I can't get involved too much with that because I don't understand their compliance. I trust Launch Control a ton. From their compliance, they're going to keep me safe when I'm sending out my text messages. Obviously, there's like things that they don't allow you to use certain words in text messages. They don't allow you to, they put the spinners in the text message. This is all stuff, and they have the compliant website. So the thing is I think about is like so many businesses are doing text messages. I've probably gotten 3 text messages just since we were sitting here from people wanting to sell me all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
right? So it's legal on some level, and launch control keeps you in that legality. So I really lean on launch control to keep me compliant. And I think a lot of the legality stuff that we see are coming from other
Yeah.
platforms. I'm not going to call out these other platforms, but I think when I hear people talking about this, like they allow me to send 10,000 text messages in a day, and I'm like, that doesn't feel legal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
From my understanding, and I've had conversations with Launch Control, from my understanding, what makes mass texting illegal, or like, I don't think it's even technically illegal. I think it's just something that you can get sued for. What makes it, I'm going to keep saying illegal because that makes sense to me. What makes it illegal is when you cannot respond on a one-to-one basis, which means you essentially overload a system. And that's when there needs to be some kind of opt-in. Like that's when it's deemed marketing. So if you send 10,000 text messages out in a day, you can't respond one-to-one. On those. If you send 300 text messages a day and you sit at your computer for 3 hours, Darrick is going to have a one-on-one conversation with everybody, which makes it not marketing. And I think that's when a lot of people, Darrick, will get, because launch control will ban you too, and like your numbers will get blocked on launch control. And I think what happens is when that happens is when you're not responding to people, because that is the big deal. Like if you're not having one-on-one conversations with people, that's when it turns into marketing, and you're just reaching out for services. Essentially, here we're trying to buy something. Is that, have you seen any people getting blocked from launch control? From my understanding, that is when it has happened, though.
I have not. I haven't had any personal experience with somebody getting blocked from launch control. But I mean, for me, sending out three to 600 text messages a day also just feels doable, right? I don't want things to fall through the crack. I have clients who have the ability to send out 10,000 text messages, and I'm like, that's not a good plan. Like, you're going to miss a lot of deals in that 10,000. I mean, you're probably going to miss at least one great
Yeah.
deal just by the numbers. So I just, not only is it maybe illegal, but I don't think it's the best business practice.
Yeah, it's you're gonna. There's a lot of opportunity you probably have lost, and I get text message all the time trying to buy our land, and I always respond. And that's just because I'm curious. Like, okay, what does their kind of system look like? How are they going to talk to me? I have one that's doing a really good job. They follow up with me a lot. But yeah, I mean, and that's how you know that it's more one to one, everything like that. What kind of goes into setting up texting platform, like not necessarily launch control, but you need systems, you need procedures, I would think, so you can, or I know you need procedures so you know when a lead's hot versus a lead is kind of a tire kicker. Like what kind of systems, what does that look like as far as setting that up?
Yeah, so you know, you get the text messages, they're the I'm interested, send me an offer, right? A lot of times what I go through, so my whole thing is how quickly can I take this off of text message and get them onto the phone to
Mm,
start building trust. So that's really, I push my coaching clients to do it, and it works really well, is to before you send the offer, before you go, talk to them about numbers, is go qualify the land. So before I respond, I'm qualifying the land. Make sure it's got good access, make sure it's not wet, make sure it's not sloped. Go look at pricing, make sure your pricing's dialed in for it. Go check your spreadsheet, make sure, that your pricing is adding up. And then I try to call them, right? Before I even send a text message, I go, hey, I got your phone call. I took a look at your land. Uh, you know, tell me the story. I'm trying to get more information out of them so I can get that. So
mm.
that's kind of my routine. 90% of the time it's going to voicemail. So I'm like, hey, saw your land. I'd love to make you an offer. Call me back when you get a chance. And my first text message to them is, hey, I just called, right? Love to touch base on your land. Here's my personal cell phone number. Get back to me when you get a second, right? So I'm trying to build that trust right away, to get them hooked in. So that's kind of my process when I start getting that stuff in, which it keeps me busy on the phone as well. Which it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
I like the long texts as well. Hey, totally interested in selling my land, and then they start going into the story, right? Oh, we bought it, this, or my grandmother left it to me when she died. I've never seen it. I'm behind on taxes. Those are hot,
Mm.
right? They're telling you, please buy my land. They're begging you to buy it. So on those ones, right away a phone call, right? Before I maybe even qualify their land, I'm calling to get more information. They clearly want to tell me about it. I'm going to let them sell me on it all day. And then maybe even while I'm on the phone with them, I'm looking up their land and I'm qualifying it. So I'm really I almost use my text platform as like a warm calling instead of cold calling
Yeah.
to get people on the phone.
So
Um, yeah.
So you try to get them off of like texting as fast as possible, as far as like getting them a more direct conversation with them, and that's whether they ask you how much you're offering, or obviously if they're just like, the ones that are saying don't contact me again. Like obviously we're not just cold calling those people,
Right.
but you're trying to get them on the phone, kind of off the launch control platform as fast as possible, and get them kind of into your more like hot lead CRM.
Totally. Yeah. I'm trying to build that trust is really what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to get a story out of them. Why are you selling your land? Right. Because in general, if people know the value of their land, they're not looking to sell their land at 50% market value to me. But if there's a story behind it, right? I'm behind on my taxes. Like,
Mm.
my grandmother left to me. I've never seen it. Don't know anything about it. Right. These people who are like, you know, they're telling you to buy their land. They have a story, that makes you go, this is a seller, right? So really, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that story that qualifies them as a hot lead. So as soon as I can get that, I know they're ready to go. If they're just like, make me an offer, I go look, I call them, they text me back, just send me your offer on text. I get that a lot, right? I generally know that they're just a tire kicker at that point. Um, yeah, I always just text back, hey, I only give offers over the phone. I need to hear a little bit more about your property so I can make you an accurate offer so I'm not, lowballing, or, I don't want this to be a bait and switch situation. So I'm still pushing to get them on the phone with me,
That
even in
probably
those
works some
instances.
too. Like a lot of people just are trying to get as many offers out via text as possible. I would assume, I'm not sure, like, yeah, that might be the sign of someone who's cold who wants just an offer over text. But you get those people on the phone, I would assume some of those deals are happening, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I got 2 deals off of my first 3,000 text messages, which is like that worked really well,
Mm.
right? Because I'm like, I don't want to sit here and text all day. They have a tendency to go cold. They can ignore a text. They have a harder time ignoring a phone call for whatever reason. Um, and once they hear your voice, you've broken down a barrier there of contact. So I feel like it's more powerful the sooner I can get them talking.
Is this how you push everyone to kind of run their texting business, or is it like a personality thing? Is that like you prefer everyone kind of getting on the phone, like your students, everything like that, getting on the phone as fast as possible?
Depends on how they feel comfortable on the phone, right? If they're just really good at text messaging and want to do it that way, that's totally fine. But it's usually like I'm trying to get the my coaching client to draw the information out of them through text. So I need to get more information before I give you an offer. I want to find out if you're an actual lead or not, or if you're just a tire kicker. Hey, I'm interested, send me an offer. If I'm not going to call, I'm going to go, great, I'm going to go take a look at your land. Can you tell me a little bit about it before I give you the offer, so I can make my offer more accurate, right? And
That,
then they'll tell you.
that's a good point. I like the way you structure. I think based on the way you structure the texting, like I feel like you'll get more per lead, without a doubt. And not really, I think, like you're going to get more per lead. You're trying to have one-on-one conversations. You're going to like, there can be sellers out there, guys, that you guys are trying to text, and they're resistant because they don't believe you're a person. They believe you're a robot or something like that. If you're Darrick Bourgeois behind the phone, or it's get them on the phone, like that's a big deal. And so many people have VAs who are doing 100% of texting, and they're trying to get the deals under contract, and there's no real personal touch. The value of what Darrick is doing here and talking about, I think, is huge, and it's going to get you more deals per lead without a doubt. So when you're building your list for text messaging, what does that look like? Are you removing bad land on the land portal? What does that look like when you're building a list? Because I'm sure that helps where you're not targeting bad land typically anymore. Most of the land you target is good.
Yeah. You know what? This is a eye opener for me when so I hired Mike as a coach last year, and the way he looks at land was totally like opened my eyes to like only buying good land and only mailing or texting good counties with good land. So not only is the data like what we go through in the modules, right? Not only am I looking at data, but then I'm actually going in and looking at an actual satellite photo of the land, right? Is this in a super mountainous area? Is this a bunch of agriculture land? Like, what am I mailing, right? So, I'm filtering. I'm doing the exact filter that you guys talk about in the module. It's so good. I'm pulling out all this stuff. I'm scrubbing the list. I'm 25% wetlands, 25% FEMA. If it's in a super hilly area, I am getting in there and adjusting slope as well. So but then I'm actually taking a look at what I'm mailing. I use Lonoke County, Arkansas a lot with my coaching clients, and the numbers work. You guys, if you just look at the data, you're like, I'm mailing Lonoke.
Mm.
Don't mail Lonoke, you guys. I'm telling you, hot tip. It's 80% agricultural land. And if you look at the sales where they're at, they're like in one little tiny corner of the county, and there's no sales in this brown square area. So you're wasting a lot of money sending mail to those people, right? We know that our system isn't set up to buy agricultural land.
Hmm.
It's set up to buy raw, vacant rural land. It works really well in that instance. So yeah, I'm same. I run the same thing when I'm text messaging. When I'm pulling data, I'm doing the exact same thing that I'm doing with mail. Like, I'm not interested in sending out a bunch of text messages to people who aren't going to respond or just going to be angry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what acreage range when you're pulling land, what acreage range are you typically targeting?
Depends on what I'm going after, right? If it's just going to be a cold text county, um, and it's going to be standard flip stuff, I'm going 2 acres up to no top, right? So I'll text message all the way up to, I mean, I'm sure I've text messaged some people who have 1,000 acres. Uh, and then if I'm starting to target subdivide stuff, then I'm starting to get into, hey, am I going to do 5 to 20,
Mm.
5 to 50? Where's the subdivide work? Obviously, there's a lot more in the background with subdivide stuff where I'm looking at where can I do the splits, right? Maybe I'm starting at 10 acres and going only up to 100 because then it starts getting too hard to subdivide 300 plus acres. So it depends on the county. It depends on, I'm also looking at the sales, the past sales, right? If I'm getting lots of data in that 2 to 5 acre range, that's great. I can tell that those are selling, and that's where I want to be in that game as well. So there's a lot of factors that kind of go into that, and
Yeah.
plug for coaching. I can help you figure that stuff out as we go through county selection.
Yeah, that's huge. It's so nuanced, and it's very. I mean, yeah, don't go to areas where there's just a cluster of sales and there's no rural sales. Like, it's huge. Don't go to areas that are 90% slope, which it does help now, where you can filter out slope properties on the land portal, and you can just. Daniel and I talk about it a lot. Like, when we first started doing this business, we were hand deselecting properties, like literally going through one by one. All right, this property is landlocked. When I mailed Alabama, when we first were doing Alabama years ago, and we were targeting like 70, not 70, probably like 40 to 50% of properties were landlocked. No road access is what I'm saying, guys. When I'm talking about that, like the ability to do that with the click of the button, new land investors have it easy as far as that. Like, if you can just build a marketing plan, everything else kind of comes in, and you can talk to people on the phone a little bit. You talked a little bit about subdivides, Darrick, and like project-based stuff. What's kind of your thoughts on people getting into subdivides? I had someone on a few weeks ago. Their first deal was a buy for 35 and like sell for 115. Subdivide, very minor subdivide. But is that kind of where you think, not necessarily the business is going, but just a lot of opportunity for people as they do their first, second, third, fourth, fifth deal?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously you got to learn to walk before you run. I think learning the basics, that we coach in that 90-day program or in the boot camp area, you got to learn that, because that comes into play even after you subdivide, right? Like, you might take a 10-acre parcel, split it into 2-acre parcels. Well, you're now just selling the 2-acre parcels. The marketing, all that stuff comes into play. And if you've got a good base, that won't be so hard. Also, it's easy to flip, right? It's a longer process to subdivide. I always encourage people to get some money coming in, get the flips going, get 2 or 3 of those under your belt, and then you can start focusing. And a lot of times they'll back into some, right? Jay and Haley are a good example. My text message masters, they backed into a subdivide deal, right? It was going to be a flip. It works as a flip. Guess what? Works better as a subdivide. And turns out it was going to be easy to split this one. It was like a 6-acre property into 3 2-acre properties, and it's going to be, worth a big chunk more. So that sort of stuff you can back into and learn the subdivide process while learning the basics. But at the same time, you could also target subdivides, which is a whole nother beast.
Yeah. What are your thoughts as we finish up here? I know we talked a lot about texting today. Obviously, like we've talked about, like Darrick is a very successful coach for us. What I view a successful coach as is someone who has successful students, someone who has students that are making a ton of money underneath them. But what I wanted to ask you, Darrick, is like, what do you see the characteristics of people who get into this who become very successful? Like, I think that question ends there, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit of a wild question, because if I see myself in this person, right? I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? I've owned a record label, I've owned CrossFit gyms, I've had real estate investment companies. This, everybody can do this business, but I don't necessarily know if everyone's going to be successful in this business. They have to be able to be uncomfortable sending out that first marketing, calling people on the phone, right? If you're adamant or scared or like, I don't want to spend this money, right? You got to be able to dive in and learn to swim. You got to jump in the deep end and just go with this. So it is a mentality, right? And I see that in a lot of entrepreneurs, like people who are, jump off the building and build a plane on the way down type of people. So I think that kind of mentality, or like, I mean, for me, when I moved to Tennessee, I didn't have anything, right? I was going to try to be a realtor, and like we moved here, we sold everything back in Seattle, and my back was against the wall. And I was like, I need to win, right? I need to get a business going, because that's what I know. And this just works really well for that. And so if your back's up against the wall a little bit and you're like, I got to make this work, guess what? It'll work. Yeah.
Tell me what you think about like people who have blinders on when they're getting started in this business. Like, there's so much distraction, not just like shiny object syndrome, people talking shit about the business, people who just negative in general, like people who like, it's easy to listen to people who are negative at like, this business doesn't work, there's too many people in it, all this other stuff. But the value of like someone who comes in, just who has the blinders on and they're just hyper focused on their plan.
Yeah. I mean, that's the strategy, right? The fact of the matter is this, it's not overdone, right? We stand so close to this whole thing. We're in the Discord. We see all these people mailing this one state. I'm not going to mail that state. The thing that people don't understand is that people's lives are changing constantly, right? You get a cancer diagnosis, their mom dies and leaves them the land. They find out that their kid wants to go be a YouTube star and wants nothing to do with the family farm, right? Like these things are constantly happening. I use a good example of I've had coaching clients now who mailed a county, right? Got a deal, great. A month later, of course, the numbers still work. I know the land is great. I get another coaching client comes in and goes, "Hey, I want to mail the same county." Let's go, right? What do? They mail the same county, two more deals, right? That person probably got the mail from this first one and decided not to sell for whatever reason, but then life changed, right? Or maybe they just are throwing these away and then all of a sudden yours is the one they open, right? It's just constantly changing. And there's just so much land. There's so many people. People don't understand the vastness of this program that we're not even at 1% of tapping this market.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me when people are like it's overdone. But like if you come in and you go, this is what I'm doing and I'm gonna make it work, it works. It still works. I see it all the time with my coaching clients, you guys. It's wild.
Much harder
I've
to
been there as
fail.
well. Yeah. I mean, I've been there as well. When I was doing my 30,000 mailers, I poked back here because I have a whiteboard that tracked it for me. I still haven't. I haven't erased it because I love looking at it. Inside of there, right? I ended up doing 10 deals and about 3,200 mailers. Um, Inside of there, I had three mailers that went out that I didn't get a single deal. One of them I didn't even get calls from. I messed up my mailer or something. I never even got a call. And I right away go, man, maybe this isn't working, right? Three mailers, 4,000 pieces of mail went out, nothing. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is dying. Send one more mailer out. Guess what? Three deals. Okay, we're back into it, right? Like it's just that. It's that you can't stand so close to this that you're like, I'm in this community and everyone's doing the same thing I'm doing. They're not because the people out there aren't doing the same thing month to month. That's the big change.
Timing's a huge thing with doing this business. Random timing is what I'm saying. Like the time someone receives your text or receives your piece of mail, like it is a huge, huge thing. And we see that. I don't talk about that as much, honestly. We see it all the time. People having multiple deals in the same county, two different people having multiple deals in the same county within a 45-day period. And it's always going to be like that. There's different strategy. Your price might be different. Your marketing strategy might be different. Maybe you're just better on the phone and they just liked you and trusted you more. So many different things that go into it. Darrick, I could talk to you forever, but we'll cut it off there. Darrick's going to be more of a regular on the show, guys. Let us know in the YouTube comments what your thoughts are on this, different marketing strategies. If you have any questions, any future episodes you want us to talk with Darrick about, let us know in the comments. Other than that, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.